reveal themselves to the class? Anybody?
I'll go. Don't talk about me, not to class, not to anybody.
Yeah, no, of course.
Show up on time, try not to fall asleep, everybody.
Am I hearing an accent?
Oh, no, what you mean?
How old are you?
Don't worry, I'm Greg age.
You're 19? Yeah. I just turned 14.
Wow, happy birthday.
Hello, and welcome to Film Rant. Boy oh boy was this a movie I never knew I wanted. An adaptation of the book by Greg Sestero based on his time making the best worst movie of all time, The Room, with Tommy Wiseau. Not only that, but James Franco plays Tommy, and Dave Franco plays Greg, Seth Rogen is in it somehow as well, and James Franco directed it. Now if somebody pitched that to me a year ago I would have said, "What are you, nuts?" But here it is. And since I heard it got standing ovations at early screenings and film festivals, I've been very eager to see it, and now I finally have. But, is it a good story, Mark? Well, to answer that I'll kind of go into spoiler territory, and by that I mean I'll talk about events that are included in the movie. It's a weird one, I don't know how you spoil a biopic or documentary, but just be warned before continuing on. Now the first thing everyone will be wondering is how well James Franco plays the legendary Tommy Wiseau, and to be honest, I think he put most doubters to sleep when the first trailer released. But let me tell you, Franco's performance is Oscar worthy. I'll be disappointed if he isn't at least nominated at the next Academy Awards. His Wiseau accent and mannerisms are absolutely spot on. You can still tell it's Franco, but makeup do a good job making him look just enough like Tommy that it isn't distracting. I wonder how long he spent practicing Tommy's laugh because he gets it absolutely spot on multiple times in the movie. Now, it's one thing to simply impersonate a cult icon, but it's another thing to successfully act as that person. And Franco manages to brilliantly convey the creepy but charming and infectiously passionate vibe Tommy gives off. He's very intense, weird, possessive, lovable and horrible throughout the movie, and Franco has to be a very talented dude in order to pull off all of those personality traits while also impersonating someone who is so unique. Any of you doubting if Franco could pull this off, don't worry, he's got it in the bag. Dave Franco as Greg Sestero shines less, but at the same time he's also playing a dude who has a much more regular personality compared to the extremely eccentric Wiseau. Dave portrays Sestero as a bit of a dreamer, but one who cares a lot about other people in his life just as much as he loves movies, compared to Tommy who seems to love the movie more than the welfare of his cast and crew. You can relate with Sestero and empathise with his choices that he makes, but sometimes you also think, dude, how did you not know this movie was going to be a complete fucking train wreck? And how did you stick with Tommy's craziness for so long? But that's what Dave brings to the table. He and James's chemistry is perfect. I mean, they're brothers for Christ's sake, and it's that chemistry that really allows us to see the bond between Tommy and Greg, and that's exactly what we needed to see. The rest of the cast is very star-studded from the Rogen and Franco brigade. It's almost This Is the End too. Zac Efron, Alison Brie, Hannibal Buress, Judd Apatow, Jason Mantzoukas and Christopher Mintz-Plasse all make appearances. Josh Hutcherson as Denny is one of the most perfect castings I've ever seen in a movie. He looks and acts exactly the same. They literally could not have cast a better person unless it was Denny himself. I can't talk about these people as characters because they aren't. They're mostly just stand-ins for the actors in the movie. That said, I was a little surprised that Lisa wasn't played by a bigger name, but maybe Franco wanted the audience to see the Lisa actress as Lisa and not be going, hey, that's Anna Faris, who could have made a pretty decent Lisa actually. What I really loved about The Disaster Artist is that it's a movie that's clearly based on Franco and Rogen's love for Tommy Wiseau and his movie, but it's also not a movie made purely to kiss his at least 40-year-old ass. There's a considerable amount of this movie that shows Tommy in a very negative light. He's extremely possessive and jealous of Greg when he starts going out with Amber, played by Alison Brie. Side note, it was glorious to see the married Dave Franco and Alison Brie play a couple together in a movie. I want more of that shit. Tommy is also shown to be a complete nightmare on set. He doesn't allow any of his actors to have water on a very hot day, he's disrespectful to his cast and crew, he's very intimidating and forceful while filming the sex scenes with Lisa. He's just not a nice guy to work with. I really love that the movie showed that side of Tommy and didn't just paint him as some movie legend. It does that a little bit, but I think it gets the balance just right in showing the good and bad sides of Tommy. Despite seeing him act like a complete dick, you still end up feeling sorry for him at the end when everyone is laughing at his movie. You can relate to how he feels while his passion project is being laughed at. It's sad, but it hits the nail on the head. That's what makes The Room great. It's such a product of passion, love and desperation, but it's just completely misguided and misses the mark by a considerable distance. I think that's why people love it. It's easy to see that it's trying so hard to be a great movie, but it just gets it completely wrong. I think The Disaster Artist does a good job showing Tommy as this guy who's almost consumed by his love for making and watching movies, but it's also a field in which he has absolutely no talent, and he had to face that reality come the end of the movie, before he pretends it's an intentional comedy anyway. But yeah, it was so nice to see that the movie doesn't chicken away from showing Tommy in a negative light. I was surprised to see that there's no mention of Tommy's jeans company. Throughout the movie, Greg asks Tommy where he gets all of his money from, and many others have asked him that over the years. But Greg has claimed that Tommy used to run a business called Street Fashions USA that sold irregular blue jeans at discounted prices. I don't think anybody actually believes that he could have made as much money as he had with that business alone. Apparently he also dabbled in real estate, but you'd need a pretty substantial starting stack of cash to get into that anyway. There's also a theory that The Room was an elaborate money laundering scheme for organised crime, but Greg doesn't think that's the case. It's sad that none of these theories make it into the movie. It's just said that nobody knows or has any idea how Tommy has his wealth, and Tommy never gives an explanation. I did find that a little disappointing. I would have liked to see the movie explore these ideas a little, but it doesn't detract too much from the overall experience. I'm not sure how much of Tommy's dialogue is verbatim or even true of Sestero's accounts, but everything he says sounds like something Tommy Wiseau would actually say. His dialogue is incredibly well written. When Greg's mum sarcastically says she's just turned 14 and without missing a beat, Tommy says, "Wow, happy birthday." Or when he harasses Judd Apatow at a restaurant and Apatow says it won't happen in a million years and Tommy asks, "But what about after that?" Or when he casually asks Greg how long a movie script is. It just all seems exactly like Tommy. I don't know if screenplay writers Scott Neustadter or Michael H. Weber worked with Sestero on the dialogue, but they got it absolutely bang on. Not a single line seems out of place, and most of it is hilarious. I do have to ask though, in the scene where Tommy gives Greg the script for the first time and he reads it, how did he not realise that this movie was terrible? Surely the sudden breast cancer twist and Denny's drug dealer troubles would stand out a mile from the rest of the story. It's hard to pick up on flaws in scripts sometimes, but I feel like those two would be incredibly obvious. I've not read the book, so I don't know if Greg did question it, but in the movie he loves it after first read, so I don't know what to think. It puzzles me how he couldn't tell the script was bad. It might have been interesting to see him challenge Tommy on the script and have Tommy completely ignore him. That does happen during production, but I would have liked to have seen that conflict in pre-production. The only reason I can think of Greg not saying anything is he thought that the movie would just be low budget and nobody would really see it, so what the hell. But I guess I'll never know. I enjoyed the documentary style ending where it showed the real Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero posing with their adoring fans and showing the film's cult success along with a few statistics. I figured they'd both be in the movie somewhere, but I liked the way they were introduced at the end. It was a nice touch. I also want to say that I really don't know how you'd perceive this movie if you haven't seen The Room or even know who Tommy Wiseau is. I struggle to view it as a neutral because a lot of the jokes are based on what you know of Tommy and his mannerisms and quirks, and also your knowledge of famous scenes from The Room. Most of Seth Rogen's jokes are things people question about certain scenes in The Room, like when Tommy laughs at Greg's horrifying story of a girl getting beat up and put in hospital. I still think you'd enjoy the movie and find it funny, but I think to get the true experience you have to at least watch The Room first. From a technical standpoint, The Disaster Artist has some incredibly well remade shots from the original movie. You see a healthy dose of the remake in the movie, but Franco says he shot so much more that he wants to show sometime, so I hope when the Blu-ray releases he adds them on as extras because I'd love to see them. Franco and his crew reproduced The Room with as much love and care as Tommy did when he originally made it. I don't think any shot is exactly the same or acted at exactly the same pace as the original, but it's like 95% accurate, which is damn good. Everything is instantly recognisable and the acting performances are close enough for them to be endearing and hilariously funny. There's also a nice touch during the last few minutes of the movie where we get a montage of side-by-sides featuring some original scenes compared to Franco's reshoots. They sync up remarkably well. At this stage I think Franco should just release his version of The Room as a standalone film. The disaster artist moves along at blistering pace at the beginning. Greg and Tommy become good friends very quickly, and then they move in together, fail at Hollywood, and begin to write the movie all within the opening half an hour or so. It's very quick up until the film goes into production, and then it slows down to a more comfortable pace. I don't know if Tommy actually saw the movie before release, but I would have liked to have seen a few shots of the editing process where Tommy views his scenes and thinks they're great, as that might have helped give the tragic ending where he's being laughed at a bit more weight. But even without that, it's easier to empathise with his failure. The pacing or lack of editing scenes aren't negatives, it's just something worth noting. Overall, The Disaster Artist is a loving, true and real account of Tommy Wiseau as a guy and a film director. James Franco absolutely nails the character and successfully portrays Tommy as an idealistic, passionate dreamer, but also as a jealous, possessive and disrespectful prick. The movie never pokes fun at Tommy for his failure, it just seems to amplify his quirks for comedy purposes, but I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. Tommy Wiseau is a naturally funny guy because he's so awkward and strange. The dialogue is absolutely fantastic as nothing seems out of place, and the movie never really tries to answer any of the mystery surrounding Tommy, it just raises the questions, which is exactly how I think Tommy would like it. He'll be aware that at least some of the appeal of him as a person and his movie is that they're both surrounded in mystery. Where did Tommy come from? How did he make all of his money? How old is he? I wouldn't be surprised if he carried all of those answers with him to his grave. If all of those questions were answered, he wouldn't be as interesting as he currently is. It's a way for him to prolong his fame. He'll always have fans because of his very charming and passionate misguided masterpiece, but the mystery definitely works in his favour. If you want a very heartwarming, troubling and hilarious portrayal of Tommy Wiseau and he and Greg's journey in creating The Room, then The Disaster Artist is an absolute must-see. The Disaster Artist gets 4.5 frames out of 5. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Film Rant.
I disagree.
You're really gonna make this thing?
We are going to, yeah. Together.